Hi everyone, my name is Manik Madaan. I'm currently a resident doctor in the United States, and today we will be doing a complete breakdown of USMLE versus PLAB UKMLA. This video is the most up-to-date video with the most up-to-date, well-researched information. In this video, I'll be discussing the pathways for both USMLE and PLAB, the exams, residency, cost, salary plus lifestyle, and visa and immigration. So USMLE and PLAB are fundamentally different in that United States Medical Licensing Exam USMLE basically gives you an entry into residency, while PLAB is not quite the same. PLAB stands for Professional and Linguistic Assessment Boards, and it is being transitioned to a new exam that's called United Kingdom Medical Licensing Exam or UKMLA. That transition hasn't happened currently and is gonna still take like 2 or 3 years probably. The way PLAB differs from USMLE is that PLAB allows you to get a GMC registration, which is just being a basic FY2 doctor, which is foundational year 2. This is equivalent to just being an intern but doing internship for the second time. It doesn't directly get you into residency. That is a very important difference. Let's talk about the USMLE pathway. So USMLE pathway is about a 2 to 3 year long pathway where you give USMLE step 1. You can give it as soon as you enter your third year of medical school. Then you give USMLE step 2. Then you write this exam called Occupational and English Test OET, which is just used to assess your English communication skills in patient care scenarios. Once you're done with all these 3 exams, you can get ECFMG registered. Educational Council for Foreign Medical Graduation, or ECFMG, is an organization that is responsible for deciding if you are at par with the US medical graduates to apply for residency. Once you get ECFMG registered, you can apply for the match. So you make your whole match application and then you give your interviews. If you are successful in matching, and this is not a guarantee, you get a residency spot. Residency can last from 3 to 7 years. So 3 being like internal medicine, 7 being like neurosurgery, right? Residency duration is variable, unlike other countries where it sometimes is constant between specialties. Then you can do fellowships, which are 1 to 3 years long. Now let's talk about the PLAB pathway. PLAB pathway starts with you first getting your primary medical degree. This could be your MBBS degree, or this could be your MBBCH degree. So PLAB cannot be given in medical school. Once you're done with that, you have to write either IELTS or OET. You don't have to do both of them. Once you're done with your English testing, only then can you do PLAB 1. Then you can apply for EPIC verification. After that is PLAB 2. Once you're done with these exams, you can get GMC registered. This means you're entering foundational year 2, which is equivalent to being an intern, not a resident. Very important to know. Once you're done with foundational year 2, you can apply for core training, which means you're entering a residency. Core training is the other name for residency. Core training is generally 2 to 3 years long. After you're done with core training, you give MRCP, which is membership of Royal College of Physicians. Once you're done with your membership, you can do specialty training, which is the other name for super specialty training. If you're doing internal medicine, that would be the core training. Then specialty training would be cardiology. And this lasts for about 3 to 6 years. Only after that you become a consultant and you can practice medicine. Comparing both the pathways, the USMLE pathway itself is 2 to 3 years long, much longer, while PLAB can be done in about 4 to 6 months from here till here. Again, in USMLE, you're directly entering residency, while in PLAB, you're not directly entering residency. You're only getting into internship in the UK. Let's dive deep into the exams now. USMLE Step 1 versus PLAB Part 1. USMLE Step 1 is an 8-hour long exam consisting of 280 MCQ questions, which are split into 7 blocks, each block consisting of 40 questions, and there's a 1-hour break. USMLE Step 1 focuses mainly on basic medical sciences. It used to be scored, but since 2022 it has become pass-fail. PLAB Part 1, on the other hand, tests your clinical medicine content, not your basic medical sciences. It consists of 180 MCQs, which last over a span of 3 hours. It is scored. However, the score on your PLAB Part 1 does not matter for you to get into a certain specialty, because most people don't look at the score. It's basically a pass-fail exam, but with a score. Step 2 versus PLAB Part 2. USMLE Step 2 is again an MCQ exam like Step 1. However, it tests your clinical clinical medicine content contrary to the basic medical sciences. This 318 MCQ question exam, so it's bigger than step 1 and lasts for about 9 hours. The whole exam is split into 8 60-minute blocks which have about 40 questions each, and there's a 1 hour break, so that's why it's 9 hours. It is a scored exam. That means program directors, when you apply for residency, they can see your score, and that is what makes step 2 more high stakes, because your score matters to get residency position. If you want to match it to competitive residency, you need a higher score. For example, if you want to go into neurosurgery, plastic surgery, you need better scores here. PLAB part 2 on the other hand is not an MCQ question exam. It is an OSE, which stands for Objective Structured Clinical Examination. This is basically a mock examination where you see patients. It's about 18 scenarios. All of these are 8-minute each, and it lasts for a total about 3 hours. Again, it is a scored exam, but that score does not matter. It is mainly pass fail. PLAB part 2 can only be taken in the UK, while PLAB part 1, step 1, step 2 can be taken in your home country. USMLE is far tougher compared to PLAB for the following reasons. USMLE is more challenging because the questions themselves are tougher, lengthier, and require more critical thinking. Second reason USMLE is tougher is because USMLE is scored. That is step 2. Since it's a scored exam, that is what makes it higher stakes. If you get a low score, it is going to be very hard for you to match into a very competitive residency or a competitive program, while the same isn't true for PLAB, where even though you have scores, the score doesn't matter. The other thing about USMLE is you can attempt step 1, step 2 if you fail them 4 times. However, if you fail, your attempt stays on your CV, which program directors can see, and it becomes very hard to match. If they are comparing you to somebody who doesn't have an attempt, that person becomes much more of an attractive applicant than you. That makes USMLE more higher stakes than PLAB, where you can attempt it 4 times and your attempts do not count. Even if you fail, nobody cares in PLAB, but in USMLE people care. Prep time for USMLE takes longer because again, it's a higher stake exam, more challenging. Each step takes about at least 4 to 6 months. Even for like the steps, you're thinking about at least 12 months in preparation for step 1 and step 2, while PLAB, each step takes about 2 to 3 months in preparation. So it can be done about in 4 to 6 months, both PLAB 1 and PLAB part 2. USMLE also has other steps. So in PLAB, you can directly apply for GMC registration and work as a foundational year 2 doctor, while in USMLE, you're quite not done. After you get your scores, you have to also prepare a whole application. After that, you have to apply for the match. There is no guarantee that you'll match into a residency, while in PLAB, you can still get a non-training job. It is much less riskier. Now let's compare the residency in the United States versus UK. First, the training quality in the residency for both US and UK is equivalent. There's no place that is superior or inferior. Let's talk about the length. US residency generally is much shorter in length. For example, let's say if you want to become an internal medicine physician, it takes you about 3 years, while if you want to do the same thing, while the PLAB pathway takes you 4 years because there's foundational year 2, and then you have to do 3 years of core training to become an internal medicine physician. Now, let's say if you want to become a cardiologist. Cardiology, you have to do internal medicine, which is 3 years, and then you have to do a 3-year fellowship. It's about 6 years if you want to become a cardiology consultant in the United States. But if you're in the UK, it's 1 plus 3 plus 5 years in specialty training. That's close to about 9 years in training. PLAB is generally a much longer pathway. Second is competitive specialties. So if you want to go into specialties other than internal medicine, family medicine, pediatrics, let's say neurosurgery, or you want to go into plastic surgery or general surgery, US is going to be much of a steeper slope to climb compared to UK. And the reason for that is in the UK, when you enter your foundational year 2, you kind of become an insider, where for an year you're with a hospital, you're getting this experience. People know that you're not just some IMG. Compared to the US, where you do electives for like 1 to 3 months and you apply and you don't even know people. So a lot of the times, most program directors of these big specialties would discard your application just by the virtue that you are an IMG. It becomes much harder because there's no foundational year training like jobs here compared to the UK. Next is salary. In the United States, states, the average salary of a resident, and this is across all years, so PGY-1 to PGY-7, and across all states, all specialties, it is about $64,000 per year. This includes calls. You are not paid extra for calls. In the UK, the average salary of a foundational year 2 doctor, which is a junior doctor, is about $42,000 per year. This does not include calls. So if you do calls, you're gonna make extra money. My friends who are doing residency in the UK, they make about the same as me after they do the calls. They earn an extra $12,000 via the calls. In the US, there is something called as moonlighting. Moonlighting is when a doctor works outside of their residency in some other area. This can be done in PGY-2 and above if your program director gives you permission. You are compensated for working outside your residency program. However, the caveat is if you have a visa, you cannot moonlight, which is a big issue. You can only moonlight on a green card or if you are a citizen. The reason this is so is because your hospital is basically sponsoring your visa, and if they're sponsoring your visa, you work for them and nobody else. Work-life balance, the UK is much better in this. On an average, a UK resident works about 48 hours per week, while a US resident works up to 80 hours per week. There are laws in both countries that prevent residents from working more than this. So in the US, it's 80, and in the UK, it's 48. In the US, the call limit is about 24 hours. You cannot go beyond that. But in the UK, it's about 12 hours. Calls are also much shorter in the UK. Work-life balance, UK crushes the US. Research-wise, I would say in the US, there is far more research because the medical system is privatized, and that generates a lot of money for hospital systems to invest in research, especially if you're on a university program. And the medical technology is more advanced because again it's a private system. While in the UK, because it's a public system, there's less research and less advanced medical technology. After you're done with residency, your degrees also have some international validity. For example, if I do a degree, let's say in internal medicine from the UK and the US, I can go back to my home country India to practice. You can also go to Singapore, you can go to Australia, you can go to New Zealand, you can go to Dubai. Middle East also accept if you do residency in both the countries, which makes medical degrees here like far more valuable than other countries. Now let's talk about the cost. Here are the cost breakdowns. When you're starting your USMLE prep, you have to get registered with the Educational Council of Foreign Medical Graduation in order to start the process. That is about $135. After that is USMLE Step 1, which is about $1,155. After that, Step 2 CK, $1,175, very expensive. Once you're done with all your steps, you have to write OET, which is $587. Now that you have the whole package, you can get ECFMG certified. By the way, now you're not done with all the expenses. There's still an application pending. Once you're done with your ECFMG certification, you apply for the match, and in the match, you prepare your application. First, you have to get the ERAS token to enter the match because you're going to make the ERAS application. After that, you have to get the NRMP token to rank programs who gave you an interview. For each interview, you have to pay like to apply to the programs. Like an average application would cost about $3,500 in total for you to apply to different programs. Once you get your interviews, you match, which is again not a guarantee. You have to give step 3, which is about $980. Now PLAB is much cheaper. On the other hand, if you look at PLAB 1, it's just $316. PLAB 2 is $1,158. IELTS is $250 and OET is $587. You have to do either of the two, IELTS or OET. Most people do OET because it's much easier than IELTS. Once you're done with this, you can either apply for provisional registration, which is $65, or full registration, which is $200. Most people go the full registration pathway. Total cost of USMLE comes to about $20,000, and this is based on my experience and 100 of other IMG's experience. For PLAB, it comes out to be about £7,000. This is what my friend spent who just recently got FY2 position in the UK. This is equivalent to $8,000. You can see that the USMLE pathway is 2.5 times more expensive than the PLAB pathway, in the face of the fact that US pathway is far more higher stakes. Salary plus lifestyle. Once you become an attending doctor, your salary kicks in, which is a bigger salary compared to the residency. In the US, the average physician earns $352,000 per year. In the UK, it's $121,900. So in the US, you're making about 3x more compared to the UK. In the US, the hours are about 5 days a week, and it's mostly like 50 hours a week. You do get more calls compared to the UK. In the UK, it's 4 days a week, so it's about 48 hours. It's less calls, and each call has a duration limit that is lesser than the US. Job availability wise, once you become an attending, job availability is more in the US compared to the UK. The reason this is so is because in the UK there is one employer and only one employer, it's the NHS, while in the US there's multiple private hospital systems which are in the thousands, right? NHS is notorious for having very few consultant positions compared to the training doctors in the system. So it's like a funnel. There's so many training doctors here in the funnel, but only a few consultant positions. Because of that, the job availability is less, and sometimes people remain in training because there's no consultant job available. In the US, however, there's so many opportunities. It's very flexible of a healthcare system. If you have just graduated, you've gotten your American board certification, there's tens if not hundreds of hospital systems who are gonna take you. So I would say the US is much more better for job availability compared to the UK. Now let's talk about visa and immigration. Once you land in the US, you can go on a J1 or H1B visa for residency. The most common visa resident doctors get is the J1 visa, and H1B is a much less common visa which some programs give for internal medicine and psychiatry. J1 is basically an exchange visitor visa, which is a 1-year visa, so you have to renew it every year, and that costs money. I'm paying about $370 every year to renew my visa. Second issue with the J1 visa is, let's say I am on J1 visa for 3 to 4 years during residency, and once I'm done with the period, I have two options. I can either go to my home country and work there for about 2 years, and then I can come back to the US to work as an attending doctor. J1 again is an exchange visa, so they are exchanging you to learn advanced medical concepts, technologies from the US and come back and serve your country. So that's why it's an exchange visa, and you have this 2-year home country bond where you have to fulfill that bond in order for you to go back to the US to practice. That's how your home country benefits from it. The other way you can go around this 2-year home country bond is you can do a 3-year rural waiver in the US. The way to get into this is you have to first pay a bond to your home country, which right now for me is about $20,000. I have to pay $20,000 to my home country. Then I can bypass the home country 2-year bond and do a 3-year rural waiver where I work in a rural part of the US for 3 years. Then I can work in the US on a H1B visa. So there are these limitations. Now let me dive into the H1B visa. H1B visa is a 3-year visa, and you can apply for green card during your H1B visa, which is a great thing. But during J1, you cannot apply for green card, right? And secondly, with the J1, even if you get married to an American citizen, you cannot get a green card. During your home country waiver and during your rural exemption period, which are 2 and 3 years long respectively, after you're done with J1, you can again transition to H1B and then apply for a green card. If you are an Indian, it takes about 11 years to get your green card from the time that you started your H1B period. However, for the UK, once you start, you're on a tier 2 visa, which is a lesser restrictive visa compared to the J1. So it's a much better visa, and you can apply for green card after 5 years of serving as a doctor in the UK. There's no exchange visitor properties here where you have to go serve your home country. You can just stay in the UK as a doctor. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If you found this helpful, let me know in the comments what you would like to watch next. Thank you for watching.